opinions, viewpoints, and beliefs presented on this program do not necessarily reflect those of the management, the affiliates and broadcast partners, or the sponsors. Listener discretion is advised. Between science and ignorance, there is filler.
Welcome to Paranormal Filler, and a happy Valentine's Day to each and every one of you. And of course, it is February 12th, so I'm too early, but screw you, it's radio, and nobody will listen until Tuesday anyway, because The Walking Dead is on tonight. Dr. Rebecca Housel is my guest tonight. I approached her about a little over a month ago, because when I think of complicated love issues, for some reason, she comes to mind.
I don't hear anything on my end.
Oh, she's not hearing me. I'll have to dial her back in, but she says she can't hear. It's
can't hear you.
Skype
no
does that. Okay. Anyway, I'll fix that. But everybody, she is on the line. I just have to get connected with her. There's something about Skype. I've been working with it, and I can't figure it out. So I'm just going to kill the theme music.
Thank you, Wes.
We for those of you listening live, basically what we've done, we could not get a Skype to Skype connection going. So now I'm on her, calling her on her cell phone. We're going to hope this is going much better. I apologize for the technical difficulties. But anyway, now the really neat intro that I was trying to do for you, Doc, when I think of the spiritual and the chemical side of love and relationships and how all that can get screwed up, for some reason, you come to mind.
Well, I'm glad. That's good news for me. I'm very glad. No, for some reason, it's become something that I really started writing about maybe a year or so ago. I think that anytime we have difficulties in our lives, the one thing that validates us is companionship and having someone love you. Everybody should love themselves, yes, but you love yourself more when you have companionship and when somebody gives you a purpose. And so when I lost that sense of purpose, I really felt so lost myself. And I mean, I have nothing to feel lost about, really, as a human being. I've accomplished amazing things, much more than I know most of my peers. My peers, of course, would be angry at me a little bit. They're all wonderful people, but... if they're listening, they do know that I've gone through quite a lot, and most of them have not had to go through those things. So, it's just, I have no reason to feel the way I did, except that I lost a person that I loved. And so for me, it became like a really personal subject. So I began writing about it, and now it's become a very popular category on my blog.
I glossed over your blog a little bit. Now, of course, one of the things you've been writing about is the whole twin flame thing. Now, I want to talk about twin flames, and I also there's some confusion out there, and I'm not sure if people, I don't think we've ever really, nobody's I've ever heard talked about the difference between what we would commonly call a soulmate versus a twin flame versus the chick you met in the bar Friday night. And I also, now, the disclaimer you missed, I'm going to be, since I'm going to be talking about romance and love, I'm going to try tonight not to piss my wife off any more than usual. So, starting on the twin flame thing, I see a lot of people get into relationships And right out of the gate, they say, I have found my twin flame, or I have found my soulmate. First of all, is that even something that we can recognize ourselves in a short period of time, or is that something that we have to does time tell the tale?
Okay, so on my end, just so the audience is aware, we've been having some technical difficulties, and I really only got very little of what you were saying, Wes, but I know you were asking me about twin flames. I'm just not sure where the question ended, but I can kind of give a little. You wanted to know the difference between things like twin flames and twin souls and soulmates. Well, remember, everybody should remember that the twin flame, I call it the twin flame narrative. It's basically a mythology, and it's very old. It's as old as human story, which is at least 1 million years old, based on someone named Joseph Campbell, a scholar and mythologist, very famous for having influenced things like Star Wars, for example. In fact, Campbell spent the last years of his life on Skywalker Ranch, which is George Lucas's property in Marin County, California. And so Joseph Campbell identified the singular thread in all human narratives, and twin flames, something like Star Wars, even has twins in it, Luke and Leia, and they're mirror reflections, but they also balance each other. So they're mirror reflections, but when people think of mirror reflections, you think of identical twins, but that's not really how it works. Your mirror reflection is actually opposite of you. Mm-hmm. It's like you, but there are differences. It's actually the opposite. So a twin flame, let's say, for example, perhaps you have a twin flame here, right now, and you are dark-haired, and that person is blonde. You are shorter, and they are taller. You are female, and they are male. Like there's things about you that are the same. You're very similar in your taste and what you like and things like that, but you're also opposite in some ways. You're reflections of each other. So that's kind of part of the narrative, the ancient narrative of twin flames. And a soulmate is somebody that you ultimately marry your soulmate. That's one of and they're a reflection of your twin in many ways. And that person helps push you toward your twin. That's at least the theory. Remember, all of this is basically labeling to try to make sense out of the chaos that is love.
Yeah, I get that, because now I'm already confused. I'll just tell you. Okay. Now, I was with you on the twin flames, okay?
Okay.
That made sense. But the way I had looked at it, twin flames being, as you put it, mirror opposites, complement each other. Soulmates, though, I always felt like a soulmate was someone that you might be truly, truly attracted to, but they were so much like you that it wasn't as likely to work out as a love relationship.
Okay, so this is a good place to go, and I'm glad you went there. So imagine for a second, the soulmate is someone you're attracted to, but the twin flame is your other half of you. It's the best way I can articulate it is that you're one soul, but you're separated at Earth. So that's a person that when you see them, the connection is not like, oh, hey, hi, I'm Rebecca, what's your name? It's, oh my God, it's really you. Because you've dreamt of that person your whole life. You've known them your whole life. You've been connected, whether you knew them or not. And when you see them, you recognize them. With your soulmate, it's not that way. They're a person that you feel safe with and you feel comfortable with. And you usually have, a home with and a family with. you often don't meet your twin until the middle of your life. It takes time to find each other. It's not like you're born next door, which would be so convenient, but that's generally not how it works. Because you're put here, the idea behind twin flames is that you're here to open doors to unconditional love. And at this point in time, spiritualists believe that there's the highest number of twin flames on the planet that have ever been on the planet, and that in the next few years, this year is a creation year, next year is an awakening year. Twin flames are often associated with 1111. So next year, 2018, is an 11 year, but of course 2020 is the 1111 year, and so that's the year that spiritualists sort of figure many, many, many twin flames that are now separated will be able to, in the next few years, find each other again, reunite. If they haven't met yet, they'll meet, they'll come together, and it will supposedly, bring a lot of positive energy to the world. But your soulmate, okay, so let me give you like real life examples. Can I do that? Will that help? Probably.
Couldn't hurt.
Okay. So imagine for the people out there listening, if you've been married before, if you're married right now, you might feel like, oh, my husband is awesome and I love him. Maybe that's your twin flame. I don't know. I can't tell you. You're an individual. But I can tell you from my own experience how I feel. And I know that I'm with a soulmate. I married a soulmate, the soulmate probably. We have many soulmates over our lifetime. Even our children can be soulmates, pets, teachers. We have a lot of them. It's not just one person. Mm-hmm. People that help our souls make a journey and direct us to repair our souls. Our twin helps us to awaken. It's a very different thing. They're not the one that's going to sort of make us feel safe. They help us wake up, and there's nothing like the feeling of being with them. But let's say you've married somebody, and many people get married. Like I got married when I was 21. I met my husband when I was 19. I'm sorry, but you just don't know who you are at that stage. All I knew was what I needed for that moment and what I felt I needed for like a 10 to 20 year period. And, it worked for about that much time. And then I would say after maybe 15 years or so, I was like, something just isn't right. And there's a lot of people that can, I'm sure, relate to what I'm saying right now, where you're in this relationship and there's really nothing wrong in particular, but something doesn't feel right, and you know it, even if you can't explain it. And it's not because you're crazy. It's because your soulmate is the person that pushes you toward your twin, because that's your destiny. That is part of your destiny. If you're a twin flame, your other half exists, and you just have to find them. It's not your soulmate. Your soulmate is somebody that helps your soul journey to the point you're supposed to go to. You teach each other things. You're master teachers for each other, but your twin soul is your other half. And when you meet them, you become awake and alive in ways that are hard to articulate, but are no less real. And if you've experienced it, you can kind of understand the electric nature of it. It's not like when I met my husband when I was 19 years old. I thought he was a good-looking guy. He was tall. He was nice. He was respectful. He had a nice family. It was an on-paper thing. Everything was wonderful on paper, right? And I liked him a lot, and I loved him, and I thought that was love. That was love, but it wasn't the same as when you meet a twin flame. You're like, oh my God, I thought that was love, but it's nothing like what I'm feeling right now. So it's not exactly something that you can kind of experience unless unless you have the experience. But I can tell you that it's so ancient that poets like Rumi and writers like Oscar Wilde and musicians like Beethoven, so many, writers and artists out there, Frida Kahlo, talked about this kind of intense connection with another person. It's often rocky with the twin flame. The soulmate, it's usually not rocky.
See, now my perception of it, I'm not that far off of you on the twin flame idea, except that now I still have a really hard time wrapping my head around the fact that each one of us would only have one twin flame. Now maybe there's different degrees of it or whatever, but I've been told, I should say we have been told, my wife and I, that we are twin flames, and this was from people that never met us. So the perception I got from them is there is something about me and my wife and I that we complement each other in the relationship. In other words, we complete the set. We are bookends, or however you want to look at it. Now, we did get married at a particularly young age, and so I don't like to think that either I was just dead ass lucky to trip over my twin flame so early in life, or I don't like the idea, because of all the people that I've met out there in the world that I've been admittedly attracted to, I've not met anybody that inspires the same feelings that my wife does. So I wanted to put that out there and to keep myself out of trouble. But now the soulmate, here's how I look at soulmates. Soulmates are someone, now I do agree you can have a soulmate that's another, like in my case, it can be another dude. It can be somebody, that you have a lot in common with. It can be, but from the outside looking in, if I meet two people that are soulmates, they're probably an annoying couple. I hate to break this to you. I'm not saying they're not perfectly happy, Rebecca, but they too much of one thing. You know what I mean? And versus twin flames, which, because they balance each other out from the outside looking in, it seems to be usually a more balanced relationship, even if it's not a particularly happy relationship. From the outside looking in, it will look different. Did that make any sense?
Unfortunately, on my end, you're breaking up quite a lot, okay. But I can respond to what I'm hearing. I think that you were talking about you still have a problem with so twin flames, the idea of twin means two. Mm-hmm. So it's you and one other person, and that's implied in the label itself, that you do have only one, because there's only one of you, so there can only be one, there's twins. It's not triplets or quadruplets, it's twin flames. So there is only one, but you have many, many soulmates. And I am very happy to hear, like, it's individual. It's not, I'm just trying to give it from my experience, as an example for the audience. But people can meet young and get married and have a perfect relationship and everything is fine, and you may very well have met the person that spiritualists might consider your twin flame, the other half of your soul. The twin flame, I heard you say that twin flames are I liked what I think I was hearing you say about how it's always going to be a little bit of a backwards relationship, because from the outside looking in, I think is what you were saying. And it's a tough thing. There's a lot of people that write about it, and what I found to be particularly disturbing about the twin flame narrative is that it includes things like basically abandonment and abuse and neglect, when you commit to your wife, and when I got married, many years ago, I didn't make that commitment lightly. Obviously, it was decades. It was decades and decades. So that wasn't a joke to me. I would never, and I would never, in fact, would never abandon anybody ever. That's just not something I would do, nor would I recommend anybody do it. So the twin flame narrative often includes what's called the separation. And there's a runner, which is typically associated with the male twin, or one of the other twins, usually associated with the male, and then a chaser, which is associated with the female. I resent those gendered roles. I think that it sets up women for failure immediately. I've experienced that myself, but I think that many women experience abandonment from men that claim to love them. It's not me. In fact, Hollywood is littered with that kind of stuff. I mean, Halle Berry, for example. We just saw the Patriots win the Super Bowl, sadly, in Atlanta. None of us were happy about that. But Tom Brady left Bridget Moynihan when she was very, very pregnant. Heidi Klum was abandoned when she was pregnant with her first child. So, there's a lot of women that have this same story, and so I'm not alone at all. But it's still I don't like that about the twin flame narrative. I feel like it encourages people to accept abuse from a person that they believe to be the other half of their soul, because they've never had anybody make them feel the way that person has. Like you were saying about your wife, nobody's ever made you feel that way. I think that's what I caught.
Mm-hmm.
That's
yes.
Wonderful. Okay, great. See, that's wonderful. That's awesome. I can also tell you that as a person, like, I connect with a lot of people. I bring the chemistry in any relationship I have. I connect with lots of people. I can very likely have many soulmates. It's not hard for me to connect with people. I like people, actually, despite my negative experiences with the world. I love people. I treasure life, and I'm joyous. I love joy. It's my priority. Joy and bliss are my priority. So when I meet a person that feels the same way that I do, which I of course have, then whether those labels, twin flame, soulmate, none of that even matters. You're just with a person that has the same priority as you, which is joy and bliss. And then, things are wonderful, regardless of twin flames or labels or things like that. So the person that I think is my twin, or I really do, I verified through numerology in unbelievable ways in so many different numeral systems, I can't even believe it myself. If I didn't run the numbers myself, I wouldn't believe it. There's no way that this person cannot be connected to me in some way. That's very, very meaningful, because otherwise the numbers would not be the same. The same numbers, even though we're born in different years, born on different days, our birthdays add up to the same thing, and not just in the solar calendar, but in multiple. I mean, I can't even tell you. The coincidences would be so high that it's just not possible. So it would indicate that this person would be my twin flame. But in the meantime, this person, as you know, abandoned me when I was pregnant, and that's not okay. It will never be okay, So for me, when it comes to love, it's about, being with a person who shares my joy priority, the priority of joy and bliss. And that's what I now consider to be sort of like the epitome of love, a person that is consistently there for you and shares that sense of they want joy. They're not looking for, they're not negative. They're not looking for problems. They're a solution seeker, not a problem seeker. And joy is what they want. And that's, for me, that's more important than twin flames or soulmates or any of the above labels.
Well, yeah. The part of the narrative that I have problem with on twin flame, first of all, where you brought up about twin flames can go out, can go bad. The human factor will always fall into it. Just as I believe in destiny, I believe that the human race has an innate way of just totally screwing up their destiny and missing it completely. Each and every one of us. So that's, I don't have a problem with people actually being twin flames and then it not working out for whatever reason. But I hate to think that in the twin flame narrative, there is only that one person out there that is the perfect complement to us. And I say that thinking there are just so many people in the world. I realize the word means two, but people make up bad words all the time. In other words, I hate for a person to think that they, as far as the twin flame aspect goes, they only have that one chance. Now, on the soulmate thing, going back to that, I do want to bring up that, yeah, I agree that there are many soulmates we will encounter. And
I'm sorry, Wes, I have to stop you because you're breaking up, but I'll answer. What I heard, I'll respond to. You talked about how you don't like the sense of having only one person that can fulfill you. I think that the twin flame narrative, let me go a little bit, again, all of this is theoretical, and so, based on human story and theory, it's similar to religion. There's lots of different people, 7 billion on the planet, in fact, and most of them none of them believe in the exact same God. We all maybe believe in God, but some don't even believe in God. So take that into consideration, that there's lots of different perspectives, but the general narrative talks about how twin flames aren't usually on Earth at the same time. You're adjusting your soul, you're repairing your soul, which is what karma is, and your twin is helping you on the other side as you adjust your soul, and are on your karmic journey. But for some reason, because our world is absolutely crazy, and I think that's something everybody can agree on right now, there's a preponderance of twin flames being born at the same time, so that you can find, if you are a twin flame, whatever that might mean, if you're one of the souls that are here to help teach and build unconditional love with humanity, you will eventually find the other half of your soul. It's not that you have only one person out of the 7 billion on the planet. That's just not true. And frankly, like you said, I love what you said, how humans are terrific at screwing up their destinies. That is 100% true. And that's part of the twin flame journey, clearing negatives surface so that we can clear them. So when a twin flame, like the person I believe to be my twin flame because of unbelievable, really undeniable numerical proof, I'm a Leo, so I like to see. Seeing is believing for me. It's my karma to kind of go beyond what I can see, but I still need verification. I don't need validation, I need verification. So I feel like I really have verified a lot of that, as much as any human can. And it doesn't mean that my twin flame, has to be my husband. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't mean he's the only person that can make me happy, because I know that's not true. I know myself, and I don't need him to make me happy. I am happy, and I connect with lots of people, and there isn't one person for me. I feel like the whole world. I mean, I could literally, it could be anybody. I could bump into a person tomorrow, and I'm sure I wouldn't even know them, and I'm sure I could develop a relationship with anybody. You know what I mean? Frankly, anybody, because of who I am. I don't need that one person to feel happiness, joy, or bliss. And it's the same for every single person, no matter who you are. You don't have one person because there are 7 billion and you will find at least more than one, one or two or three, maybe more than that you can connect with in a meaningful way, and that can give you the joy, the bliss, and the love and the peace that comes with it. When I was with the person that I consider my twin flame, I never felt that kind of joy or bliss before that moment. Never. The peace, even when I knew he was really screwing up in big ways, it didn't matter. It did not matter. Not because I'm a stupid woman, but because I never had that sense before, and he gave me something I never had before. So he's not the only one who can give it to me. I know that, but I never had it before, and so it was significant to me. And I think that he might screw up his destiny, but the whole point of twin flames is that you clear those negatives. That's part of your soul, part of your soul contract with yourself, is to adjust your soul and repair it. That's really what karma is. It's reparation. Repair your soul. So if my twin flame ever decides to repair, I'm never going to say you can't repair, what happened. It's absolutely he can. It doesn't mean he's going to be the love of my life or the person that I live the rest of my life with. It just means that I'll hug him and say thank you. And, who knows, just be friends probably, because, that's just sort of where I am right now. It has been years. And that's also classic twin flame. It can be 5-10 years before the other person that ran away and, left you in a lurch decides to come back and make amends. But to me, that's a little bit ineffective. So
one thing that I touched on earlier, and you had trouble hearing me, so I'm going to try it again. I see people who just get into relationships call the person either I have found my soulmate or I have found my twin flame. Do you think that in the heat of passion, that new relationship, that we as humans are in do we have any capacity to really recognize that in those initial stages, or is this something that time will tell?
When it comes to love, I personally have had, multiple experiences with love that I chose because I felt it was right for me. And then I've had experiences where love chose me, and I was like, no, this isn't going to work. But I still felt the connection, and I'm like, well, maybe this will work. And then of course I'm madly in love with that person. But with the twin flame, it was a little different. It was more immediate. And it was, despite what I saw were like mega red flags, huge red flags, because I'm older than my twin, I'm like, oh my God, this guy's got a lot of problems. But, I feel compelled. It's a compulsion almost. And I never felt that before or since. Now I feel, what I feel today with the love that I have right now is total and complete warmth and safety, and it's different than anything else, and it's wonderful. It's not like the other one, which was also full of joy and bliss, but in a different way. So I think that human beings have the capacity. In fact, I think that your gut tells you almost immediately. I bet you can attest to this with your wife. Almost immediately that you belong to that person or they belong to you. Sadly, though, this is a pop culture professor answer. It's a little bit, I might get a little lectury here, just because of postmodernism, which is the cultural shift that occurred after World War II, and is of which pop culture is the result, and so is the individual technologies that we all have and enjoy. In fact, tonight when we were starting our interview, I was on an iPad, and then I was on the iPhone, and then I switched back to the iPad, and now back to the iPhone. So, I mean, we all have what the I in this technology stands for individual, because postmodernism recognizes that every individual, and this is, again, mainly in the Western world, every individual is valid and valuable just for existing. So today we think it's okay to spend literally thousands upon thousands of dollars for technology just for ourselves as individuals, when 30 years ago, the first Mac computer from Apple was advertised at the Super Bowl in 1984. The year before, they came up with what they called the Lisa, which kind of didn't work out and died. And there was Commodore and there was Atari in the late 70s that had come out, but computers really didn't take off until the Apple Mac came out in 1984. And at that time, it was over $2,000, and if people had it at all, it was one that everybody shared. Today, it seems like many, many households have multiple computers, and this is just to help explain what postmodernism is. Look at the film industry. At no point in history during the last 100 or so years of film history, the first vampire film was in 1922, for example. So it's been like almost 100 years of film history now. You've never had this many movies because people never felt it was a priority to go to the movies at this level. How we feel as individuals matters more than almost anything else, and Hollywood is cashing in on that. So are companies like Apple, every cell phone company. So today, that kind of technology has created. I'm writing about this in a book about millennials, and from the U.S. perspective, it's an international book, and it has created this millennial generation that started in the late 70s. And part of that cultural shift didn't just include the technology and things like pop culture. It included things like curriculum in public schools. So in the mid-70s, and it became national by the late 70s, public schools began awarding children just for existing, because, you see, if every individual is valuable and valid just for existing, children began to learn at very early ages that they didn't have to try to succeed. And if they didn't try, it wasn't possible to fail because they'd be congratulated just for existing. And so today, along with technology, the increase in technology and information overload, basically, that you see 9-year-olds walking around with smartphones, and they know how to use tablets, and they have their own laptops. And, imagine growing up in that world. Of course, we did not. So it's different we're not part of that millennial generation. But technology has basically bred an incredibly entitled group of people that are narcissistic in nature. Our culture is narcissistic in nature. So when you're talking about when people meet and they claim almost right away or within a few months that they've met their soulmate, that's a narcissistic trait. That's part of literally. It's part of the the definition, the standard definition for narcissistic personality disorder. One of those traits is a person being able to look at you, hold your gaze for long periods of time, say things like, you're my soulmate, in very, very short before, you meet, and weeks later, what happened to me was something similar to that, and a month later, he's singing a marriage proposal to me, and I'm like, what? This is a little fast. But, you tend to get swept up in the moment, like you said. You get carried away because there's nothing as amazing as the feeling of somebody looking at you and saying how much they love you and how they feel so connected to you. And you feel that way, too. But it's so rare in this society where ghosting is now a thing. And I'm not just talking about your paranormal filler, and I don't mean actual ghosts. Ghosting is a millennial advent of the millennial culture and 21st century sort of technology where, and Charlize Theron actually is infamous for ghosting Sean Penn. she just like, they were going out and everything was great. And then all of a sudden she just stopped answering his texts. She didn't call him. She wouldn't answer his calls. She ghosted him. That's what that's called. I wrote about it in July of 2015 on my blog called Ghostbusters. And so we have this kind of weird thing happening where, I think it's becoming very confused. Love, real love versus, so I write about that. What is real love versus comfortable love or familiar love or familial love, convenient love? You don't love somebody because you happen to bump into them, when you were working and they say, hey, can I have your number? That's fantastic, but it's a little convenient, don't you think? That doesn't have to be but people settle because of fear. And that's something I write about a lot too.
Now, in closing the show out, what is finding your twin flame or your soulmate? Is it just a process of waiting, or is be yourself and hope that the good shit happens, or is there are there spiritual ways that you know of, or mental exercises, or good habits to get into that will increase a person's chances of finding that other person that would fulfill them?
Absolutely. And this is a fantastic question. Thank you for asking it. Self-love, unconditional love of the self, is the best practice you can continue or work on. It's really hard. It's not easy. It sounds easy. Well, I love myself, but you don't. When you meet a person and there are disconnects, and you know it, we almost always know it. Instead of accepting it, do not accept it. Say, I am worth more, and tell that person, I am worth more. And if they are really meant for you and they really care for you, they will change. That is sort of the ultimate thing. You don't have to accept what's in front of you. If you love yourself enough unconditionally, you will not just take whatever happens to come in front of you, whoever happens to be the person to ask you out, whoever happens to show up in your life. That's wonderful, and maybe that is fate. But if there's a problem, not even a problem like it doesn't even have to be major. But I can only use examples from my own life because I think that's like the fairest thing to do. But when I met the person that I considered my twin flame, I didn't even know what the word twin flame until a year and a half or so ago. I didn't even know anything about it until all of this bad stuff happened, and I was trying to make sense of it. And that's really what Joseph Campbell, who I referred to earlier, kind of talks about with that single thread in human narrative. Essentially, story helps us take chaos and turn it and bring order to the chaos of our world. With early humanity, that was literally, literal chaos. It was, we didn't have weapons, we didn't have homes, we really were fighting for our lives every day. It's not like that now. So now, really, love is sort of the battlefield that most of us in the Western world are sort of fighting on a daily basis. How do we figure out who's really the real deal? How you figure it out goes back to yourself. If you love yourself unconditionally, you will not accept things you shouldn't accept, but you do accept because you're afraid. Fear is our enemy, not other people. It's fear. And if we love ourselves unconditionally, Wes, and you were talking about exercises, it really is a skill that you have to practice. Like any skill, you have to continuously do things to make yourself more healthy. How do you love yourself unconditionally? Not just by saying, oh, I love myself, that's enough. Not just by putting on makeup. If you're a woman, or taking care of your skin or your hair, or, really truly love yourself. Don't put bad things in your body. Be healthy. You won't have addictions. You won't because you'll be happier. You love yourself. You want to take care of yourself, and so if you really take care of yourself, you're investing your time, your money, your energy in yourself. It's not being selfish to do that, because if you don't take care of you, who will? Nobody. So you have to love yourself first and value yourself. When you do, you will find somebody worthy of you and the value that you place on yourself. I mean, the scum always rises to the top, Wes. So when you shine, you attract everybody. Not just I love that saying, your vibe attracts your tribe or something like that. That's really awesome. I wish that were true, because if my vibe attracted my tribe, I would have no problems at all. All I do is promote positive energy, literally. All I do. That's my entire focus. But I am not rolling around in happiness and surrounded by happy people, because the world is full of fear. So I attract everybody, and unfortunately that includes bad people. But I love myself. I love myself a lot. I've learned a lot. Unconditional love for the self is the way to go. And now when I meet a person that I know isn't going to, doesn't have, I don't dismiss them or something, but I let them know what it is that maybe needs to change on their end before they can pursue a relationship. You can't pursue a relationship with me if you have, problems in your own, with your own self. You have to take care of yourself. Show me you could take care of yourself. And then, maybe there's something then we can maybe get to know each other. You know what I mean? But otherwise, I feel like I love myself. I know my value, and I'm not giving anybody any deep discounts. When you don't give anyone deep discounts, you leave room for your twin flame, your soulmate, the person you're supposed to be with, whatever label you use. Don't give deep discounts. Love yourself unconditionally. And for Valentine's Day this year, by next year, you'll find the person that you will be the foundation of your life, and you will be set.
And on that note, we're going to call it a night, everyone. Thanks for sticking with us through the technical difficulties. We finally got things worked out enough to produce a show. And although, of all the things you said, Rebecca, the one thing I wrote down, I'd love... We're going to have to talk about this sometime. The scum rises to the top. I was not expecting that quote in the context of our Valentine's Day love and romance conversation.
I didn't hear the quote, though. You broke up. Tell me the quote again.
The scum rises to the top. Yeah, that was
I didn't say the cum rises to the top.
No. See, now that you had to go there. You had to go there. Everybody, thanks for sticking with us. Thanks for listening to Paranormal Filler tonight, and have a happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Thank you.
Paranormal